Welcome back, everyone. We've had an awesome start to day two and have many more amazing sessions planned ahead. For those of you who are joining us now and could not attend the sessions earlier, the recording of those will be available on the platform very soon. Our third session for the day will be discussing how social entrepreneurs can make use of NDHM and build solutions for Bharat. Shashi Bhushan, Wilgrow Practice Lead for Healthcare, will be moderating this session. So over to you, Shashi.
Thank you, Anusha. Good morning, or I think it's good afternoon, so I should say good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Unconvention 2021. Excited to be moderating this session on how social entrepreneurs can make use of NDHM and build solutions for Bharat. Yes, you heard it right. Bharat is what we are going to be talking more about. The large populace of India's population that resides in villages, rural, that's what Bharat is. And where we need solutions for us to take the country to the next level, that's what we'll be talking about. To give the context, I think around a year and a half or long before that, the government launched the NDHM at a national level. Lot of progress has been made across integrating the APIs, trying to get together. So we will be to give a glimpse of this session, understanding more about from what the progress has been from the NDHM and NHA side. We will also be touching upon how social entrepreneurs can make use of this NDHM platform to take it to the next levels. That is what the sessions are going to be. Approximately 30 to 40 minutes will take around 10 to 12 questions. Then we open it up for questions for others. So that's the format of the whole panel discussion. We have with us a very, I would say, diverse and an expert panel of members joining us for this panel discussion. I would like to introduce, taking a few minutes as we start this session. So Kiran Anandam Pillai, welcome Kiran. Apart from running his own startup on District Cares, Kiran also is a core volunteer for healthcare at iSpirit and an advisor on technology to NDHM and Ayushman Bharat. Kiran leads the adoption and evangelization of NDHM across government, private hospitals. Welcome, Kiran, to the panel discussion. Second, we have Arun Agarwal, founder and CEO of Janitri Innovations. As we talk of Bharat, we talk of mortality rates, we talk of maternity. So Arun, through Janitri Innovations, has built a solutions that improves the what we call as a maternity and a child healthcare process, making it safe, as well as digitizes the overall workflow involved in the rural public healthcare. This product impacts the bottom of the pyramid patients, improving the social impact overall. Welcome, Arun, to the show.
Thank you.
Panel discussion. So the last panelist we have is Yukti Sharma. Yukti is the functional lead and product manager of National Health ID under NDHM. She's responsible for the product strategy, design, and development of Health ID and integration across multiple systems. Welcome, Yukti.
Thank you, Shashi.
Yeah. So we dive right into the topic of NDHM and other things. So let's look at Kiran. Could you share with us a short intro? We have got a lot of people who are not aware of what NDHM is, though there's a lot of reading around it, in a layman's format as to what NDHM is, what's the progress to date, and lastly, what are the benefits to hospitals and labs from this framework, NDHM? Over to you, Kiran.
Yeah, thanks, Shashi. And hello, everyone. And thanks for coming into the Unconvention session. So I think the NDHM, or the National Digital Health Mission, is an amazing new initiative from the government. So it's been called the UPI moment of healthcare. It's potentially the place where, we are talking about how do we unlock the power of health data. And as all of us know, India is really fragmented when it comes to health data. And, pretty much, so, I recently got a COVID test done, and it's not that hospitals or providers do not want to share things with you digitally. So after I got the COVID test, I got an SMS on my phone. I could go to the website of the lab where I got the test done. I could punch that code in and I could actually see that report as a PDF. So health data, a lot of health data is already digital. We can argue the fact that in rural and Bharat, there is still a lot to be digitized, but we are at a point in time in our country when there is a significant portion which is already digitized. Now, the question is, the digital data, what is already digital, is still locked into individual silos across the country. Whether it's public health, places like Janitri where they're working with the government, or private, these data are sitting in silos. So what NDHM is saying is, now could that lab, instead of just allowing me to pick up that report or the PDF from their website, I have a way, a national standard through which it could have added it into Kiran's longitudinal health record? Was there a way for them to link it so that it becomes part of my record, so that even 3 years down from now, some doctor is looking at it and he knows, hey, okay, I got a COVID test done and I was either positive or negative, right? Two, can the data that's being released by the lab not be a PDF, but a machine readable structured data format, which would make it very powerful for analytics, right? So the National Digital Health Mission is really about making these two things happen. Now, if you start with this, and we call this the basic plumbing, how do you get the interconnected and the wiring to kind of happen? It sets the stage for how it can actually change. So the other thing that NDHM does is that now Kiran has this longitudinal health record, or a link of bunch of links with his health data, which is structured actually around something that we call as a health ID, because how do you identify Kiran digitally becomes the question. And Yukti will talk a bit more about the construct of a health ID. The other thing that NDHM allows is for it to be shared with whoever wants to use it. Now the who can be very wide. So we call these entities as health information users. So it could be a mobile app, say, which wants to talk to me about my diabetes. It could be another doctor who wants to look at the health record. It could be an insurer who wants to do something with it. It could, and so on. So, but sharing of data in NDHM is only going to be with my control and my consent. So I decide if I want to be able to share it with someone, how long they can have my data, what they can do with it. And so NDHM is also one of the first programs that's looking really closely at how the Personal Data Protection Bill of India has been structured, how a certain set of rules that we now call DAPA are coming out, and essentially aligned completely to put you in charge of your data. And the last bit that NDHM does is something which is much more about what we call as aggregated and anonymized data. So this lab that is participating, the lab that's participating not is only is going to provide these consented data flows, or share data with consent, but also provide certain aggregated data streams. So for example, it will say, okay, how many HbA1c tests I did yesterday, how many were outside the normal range, and maybe it will break it up into gender groups and age groups. So it's not who the test was done on, but it is simply what test got done. Now imagine the power of that when you aggregate that at, say, a district level or at a state level. So suddenly you can have a very powerful flow. And we're talking about any data that's coming out of these kind of systems as being completely privacy preserving, which means you won't know who's the individual, you won't know who's the institution that conducted the test, because there's competitive info. I'm sure Medanta doesn't want to know how many stents it did yesterday to the world, but people do want to know how many stents are happening in, say, the NCR region. So this is the three things that NDHM does. So I'll stop here, Shashi, and these are kind of the things that's enabled. I would just like to end with that this is not an idea. NDHM was launched by the Honorable Prime Minister actually on August 15th, 2020. There's a whole bunch of APIs. How any individual can participate in the ecosystem is already out. Many guys are participating, and so we'll talk a bit more about that. But fundamentally, think of this as we are at the early cusp of a point where the digital healthcare revolution is coming. And so it's going to be very important for startups to understand what it is, find those new opportunities, and start participating.
Sure. Thank you, Kiran. I think what I liked also was the last part you mentioned about population data, right? That's what it means. Before an outbreak happens, you look at it and you're able to take preventive actions around that. Thank you for sharing the data around this. Yukti, we move to the next one. We have been hearing a lot about a digital unique health ID. So could you walk us through it and what the benefits are, how easy it is to get it?
Thank you so much, Shashi. Just taking on from what Kiran just said, NDHM is indeed a step-ladder movement towards our journey towards universal health coverage, right? Bringing the focus back to Health ID. Health ID is every person who wishes, anyone and everyone who wishes to participate in this digital healthcare journey should start by getting a health ID. So what we know as health ID is actually a health ID number and health ID. Health ID number is a 14-digit randomly generated patient identifier, whereas health ID is a user created, easy to remember alias that is provided. So it's fairly easy to create. You just need basic demographic details, which is name, your date of birth, your gender, and a verified mobile number. If you don't want to create a mobile number, go ahead and create it with Aadhaar, right? So it's fairly easy to create, and it's very easy to create, and it's a unique patient identifier, right? So there are multiple vision benefits of health ID, starting from access to digital health records, right? So once you create a health ID, it is the first step you take towards a digital healthcare journey, and you can start accessing your health records right from treatment, right from diagnosis to treatment, and so on and so forth, in a paperless manner. While it's fairly easy to sign up, we have come up with health ID alias where you can, for example, my health ID is Yukti at NDHM. I can go ahead and create Yukti Sharma at NDHM based on the availability of that alias, right? So it's a consent-based access. You are in charge of your own data. Access of your health data is provided only after you have given consent, and you can also revoke consent, right? It's
Yeah.
voluntary in nature, so anyone who wants to come on board can come on board, and if you want to opt out of the NDHE system, you can do that as well. We are working on that functionality and will be rolled out pretty soon. So yeah, so while all of this is happening, as this system evolve, there will be we would be able to see multiple benefits as well, like something as simple as reduced patient misidentification, right? Like health ID ensures that the medical records created for you are issued correctly to you, thus avoiding prescription and clinical errors. So this is also one of the vision benefits of health ID.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, Yukti, for walking us through that. So now we change gears. We come back to the topic as to how social entrepreneurs can make use of NDHM, right? So Arun, the question is to you. To begin with, can you just share a little bit about Genitree's work with public health and government, the kind of work? Then we will kind of have follow-on questions on how NDHM can use or something like that. A short intro on your work at Janitree, please.
Sure, Shashi. So Janitree, if you see itself, is a Sanskrit word of mother, and our whole focus is on the innovation for solving the grassroots level problems of maternal and child healthcare. So if you look at the maternal mortality rate or infant mortality rate, or the mortality or morbidity which is happening during the whole pregnancy, intrapartum, postpartum, or the newborn, it's really high if you compare this with the developed world. And that is where our mission is. And the good part is more than 80% of these mortality and morbidities are preventable. So if right things can be placed at the right time to the right people, these things can be preventable. That is where Janitree is working with a vision or mission. So we, at the moment, our focus is on improving the labor phase, because that is pretty much very critical phase. Once a pregnant woman start getting the labor pain, and then she get admitted in a hospital setting, whether it could be a PHC, CHC, district hospital, or a private hospital. That is something which is very critical, and a lot of deaths or a lot of morbidities of both mother and newborns are happening during that time. And we are working on a very innovative wearable fetal monitoring device, which also interacts with a mobile application, has a feature of remote monitoring, central monitoring, referral, improving the whole intrapartum monitoring at the moment. So we are in the almost 140 plus hospitals across India, where most of these hospitals are actually the government hospitals in Karnataka, Rajasthan, Meghalaya, and Arunachal Pradesh.
Got it. Thank you, Arun. So we heard about Janitree, right? So Kiran, the question is to you. How easy is it to onboard or integrate with NDHM for startups like Janitree, which are working on a social impact? When should a startup like Janitree start putting down these NDHM APIs into the roadmap, or are they too late?
Okay, they're definitely not too late, and I think now is the time. So NDHM is going, in terms of how NDHM is being rolled out by the government, it's got 3 phases actually. And so right now we're in phase 1, which is called the pilot phase. So the pilot phase mostly is focusing on making sure that we kick the nuts and bolts of the technology, and it's open primarily in the United Territories. So about 6 different areas. So there is actually not too many healthcare institutions in these areas. The next phase is to kind of widen it to a few states and then a national launch. So all that's coming up in the next few months. But we do have open something called the NDHM Sandbox. So the site is NDH Sandbox, sandbox.ndhm.gov.in. So request all startups to go take a look at it. So that's the first place where you kind of come in. That's where we have all of the documentation of the APIs. We have all the support. You have a bunch of webinars from the NHA team talking about how do you do this integration. But let's understand what really we are asking of Genethri, right? So Genethri, in the period that it is treating these mothers, where it's doing this fetal monitoring and all of that, is actually creating certain health data. Given that they're a young innovative startup, there's probably a lot of data that's already digital. Now, there's probably some information that they're sharing with the patient, probably in the form of a printout. Now, what we're really requesting is, can Genethri actually take this digital data, start collecting a health ID from all of these mothers, and start adding any digital data? It's not, they're not actually going to push it. They're just going to put a link saying in their software, they have a piece of health data related to that mother. So now what happens is when you look at that mother and you look at the longitudinal health record of the mother, so it's possible that in the overall care that the mother is getting, that one portion of the care came from some hospital where Genethri and Genethri software were in use. But because not just Genethri, but we are talking to, NDHM is talking to, for example, the RCH program, which is the mother and child program of this country. And across them, from antenatal checkups to, they go all the way till children's immunizations, they actually hold significant health records, including immunization records of all the children. We are asking them to make sure that they collect a health ID, add that also into the health record, right? So, and this phase, in generally, if you look at anybody's longitudinal health record, you have a lot of data between the time you're born to, say, maybe the age of 5 or 6, then you're pretty silent for a long time, then it'll start kicking in again by the time you're 40 plus. So, it's quite important that all ages and all stages kind of participate. So any software, so the shifts, and I think it's extremely important, if you are someone who's making a piece of software that is used by a hospital or a lab and is creating health data or holding health data, you need to please become part of NDHM and become what we call as a health information provider. So a health information provider is anybody who puts up their hand and says, I have a piece of health data and I am willing to link it against the health ID. So that's the primary intent. APIs for this are available. I know lab companies, so I can give you an example of a couple of lab companies who already had a website where you could, like I said, go put a SMS code, pull the test out as a PDF, took less than 3 weeks for an integration to happen. So it's not complex because, there's only 2 key things that you need to do in your software. You need to be able to build in the capability to collect and keep a health ID. So, you probably are already generating a patient ID in your software. So you're just saying collect a health ID if the user provides it. So remember what Yukti said, health ID is voluntary. It's not that we're forcing people to have a health ID, but if someone were to walk in with a health ID, collect that health ID, keep it in your software against your health ID. And whenever you have a health record available, notify those an API and link it to that health ID saying, hey, I have an health record available. And then lastly, implement something we call as a HIP service. So you basically are waiting online. It's just a web service. You get a request along with a consent object from that health ID. So you look at the consent and say, okay, this is a valid consent. Here's the health record. Release that health record in a standard format. So not great amount of work. And we have also made it very simple so that you can start with your PDFs. So in the beginning, you can start sharing your PDFs, but then really in the next 2 years, we want you to move to more structured data. And this is a little more challenging, Shashi, and I know you're from this industry and you know that there's many different health standards and health data standards. So we do want the country to start adopting them. And I'll give you an example. So if you're making a lab report, you can say, okay, I'm doing a CBC test panel, and then in that there is a WBC count, for example. There is something called a LOINC code that's actually available internationally for WBC. So you can either say it's a text called WBC, or you can say, okay, I also am going to attach the LOINC code to it. So LOINC codes, as an example, make it very easy when you're starting, when we're talking about aggregating data. If people were to have different just string-based test names. You could have a lot of variation across labs, and it will be very hard for us to actually pull that integrated data together. So it's going to be very important for also in the software for certain standards that are coming. So NDHM focuses on two things: getting you started off the block, start sharing your data, then moving you towards standards. So those are the two things that are happening. So the timing is now. So if you do have a piece of software, please come check out, sign up on the sandbox. It's open to anyone as long as they have a legal registration of some sort in India. It's also open to individuals. So, take a look at that and please get started.
Thank you, Kiran. Arun, any follow-up questions on this? Because that's what my intention here also was as a social entrepreneur trying to take the benefit of the panel before I move to the next question.
No, I think pretty much, have some clarity on this, but still the implementation is something where we need a lot of support from the government, because if you see in our use case, if you see, as Kiran rightly mentioned, the antenatal phase start from the first day of pregnancy to the 9 months, then the intrapartum, and the baby becomes 5-year-old. And if you look at, every state is running their own software in terms of tracking the mother and newborn care, which is called MCTS software, which is called Anmol, which Ministry of Health has adopted, different apps. And we are also, private organization is also coming up with a different solution for the different phases. And, for example, our solution is for intrapartum labor phase inside the labor setting. And as a mother comes down to the hospital, we really want to see what was their antenatal data to make sure we give the good output, good intelligent alerts during the intrapartum phase. So how we should get that data to make sure, okay, we include that sort of a parameters into our algorithm, into our alerts. So yeah, how all these should get integrated with each other.
So wonderful, Arun. So firstly, NDHM talks about a construct that we call as principle of reciprocity, which means if you want data and you are having data, you better start sharing data first. So, in the data game, right? Everybody will say, I want data. And nobody says, I will share the data, right? So super important. You need to be the first guys to say, okay, look, I want to become a HIP. So I will participate in this ecosystem, but I want to share what data I have, right? Now, who are you sharing it with? We are not saying share it to some government or something. We are saying share it with the patient. So share it with the individual. So when you take a health ID of a patient and you're actually linking it against that, you're only sharing whatever data is their data, right? Now, the other thing that you can also implement in your software is getting the data of the patient with consent. Now, like I already shared with you, we are already working with the RCH and the Anmol program. So in about a couple of months from now, you're going to see that any antenatal record, any immunization record that was part of RCH will also be available with the patient. So even they're sharing data with the patient. So you can, in your software, now request the user saying, I want to see your medical history. So what happens is when they come up to a hospital and that hospital has become part of the NDHM ecosystem, typically the vision that we have is you go to a hospital, you go to a registration desk, you share your health ID, and the receptionist will then suddenly send you a request saying, can I get your medical history? And then you will say yes on your phone. So you will give the consent saying, hospital X can have my medical data. So once they pull that data, Janitri can actually get access to that data, right? So the moment you pull the data, now this next thing is, what is this data going to look like? And is this something that I can actually make sense of, provide some intelligence to whoever is going to treat? And that's the reason why we are saying it needs to be structured, right? So when you pull the data, in the beginning, it's quite possible that there is some pieces of data which are actually only human readable. So you can still present it to your doctor so that they know the full history. So your ANC checkups and all come in. But in the future, we are pushing towards making sure that everything is in a structured data format so that you can actually read it and actually do, very intelligent stuff with it in terms of how you actually provide care. So I hope that helps you understand, that this is a two-way street. Not only we want you to share data, but everyone has the right to pull the data, but only with user consent.
Sure. Thank you, Kiran. Thanks, Arun, for the question. Glad this was useful to have this panel discussion across the panel members itself. So Yukti, you talked about digitization and unique health ID, right? So while we are advocating what we call as increased digitization, we cannot ignore the fact that a large part of our country population is still digitally exclusive or illiterate kind of thing. How do you ensure inclusivity in health ID?
Thank you, Shashi. That's a very important question. So while this pandemic has given an impetus to digital literacy, even in tier 3 cities and rural areas, it's still a little slow to catch on. And we have taken that into account. So while you can self-register as a user online, if you're a digital literate person and you know and you know a fair amount of technology, you can create it yourself. Otherwise, what you can do is, if you're a digitally illiterate person, you're from a rural background, or you're an old person, you can go to any participating healthcare provider. So these are these facilities that have gone on board NDHM. You can go to any participating healthcare provider, and we have process flow known as assisted health ID generation, right? Where facility managers in these facilities are trained to not only brief you on the benefits of health ID, on what NDHM can do for you, but also help you create health ID through assisted means. So we also have that available. We are currently working on developing offline health ID, which will essentially help in areas that are under very low connectivity or low to no connectivity, right? So yeah, so we do have assisted modes of health ID generation.
So this is something like a kiosk in a hospital?
Yes, there will be also, imagine it like this, like if you go to a hospital, there's a kiosk in the hospital, and there's a facility manager, there's a person who will ask you, brief you about it, and tell you if you want a health ID. And if you say yes, they will take consent from you, take your basic demographic details and create a health ID for you. Since you are not digitally literate, they'll also take a printout and give it to you, so that you can further use that card with the QR code and all the details as and when you need at different healthcare touchpoints. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Kiran, my second one is again, like the next one is towards you being on the healthcare side, right? I've seen hundreds of software with, I would say, disparate technology, some of them not having API kind of benefits or something like that. How do you look at, and you know what, once a hospital takes a software, it doesn't change it for years or decades towards that. So we have one part of Bharat or one part of them using very old software that they are not changed because there are hundreds of data, different databases, etc. So there is a new versions coming up with all on the mobile, all on what we call as open source technologies coming up. So how do you see the migration of these old ones towards NDHM, because you do require that API interfaces for you to share the data?
Yeah, it's a challenging problem, Shashi. And I think, we are betting on two things, right? So I think you think of any industry, and it's not just healthcare. I think digital is becoming very pervasive in our lives. And what we do see is that more and more, almost everybody wants to actually go digital. I mean, COVID is a great example where, hospitals started reevaluating, how much consultation can I deliver digitally, right? So I think the NDHM is coming at a point in time when, as a country and as a, probably as a whole world, we are actually thinking of, how can we actually more digitize? So I do think, the current strategy that the government is having is, we break it into 3 buckets in terms of the adoption cycle. Number one, we are talking about public health system. So hopefully in the next in the coming year, you will see most of the public health hospitals as well as the public health programs essentially integrated with NDHM. So which means that between these groups, you're probably going to see they treat over 100 to 150 million people over a year. So, a lot of them are likely to see that. In fact, it's also integrated into the upcoming COVID vaccination program that you see ongoing by the government. The second thing is we are talking to organized corporate. Now, organized corporates like, the Apollos, the Medantas, the SRL Labs, Dr. Lal, and so on, have always and historically had a significant investment in IT. So we are saying, can you take that investment and the large IT group that you have and, push it towards the NDHM side? And happy to share that, there is excellent and active integrations from all of these people. So I think a lot of the people at the top of the pyramid, while the government public health programs are probably going to, have the health ID system and the NDHM system touch the bottom of the pyramid, I think these organized corporates are going to help the top in the middle. And the last cohort that we're talking to is anybody who makes software for hospitals or labs. Now, as you know, in India, that's probably the most fragmented. We have, thousands of different software vendors. And of course, almost 95% of our care providers themselves are single practitioner kind of care providers. So we do think that's going to be a long tail. It's going to take time. We talked about the UPI moment of healthcare. I can tell you the UPI journey is more than 7 years old now. It didn't reach 1 billion transactions overnight. And I can also tell you that the first year of UPI, it was quite tough in getting a few transactions going. So all of these have a tipping point, but I think if you start seeing reasonable adoption from the government and the large corporates and at least a portion of the healthcare ecosystem that's interested, I'm hoping that this will really be pervasive in all of our lives within the next 3 years.
Got it. Yeah. So I think, Anusha, are there any questions from the audience that you would like to post here?
Shashi, nothing as of now.
That's
I think
fine.
we
Yeah,
could
we'll
continue with the
keeping that,
discussion
okay?
and keep it for the last.
Sure. We will keep it for the last. So one of the other things, Kiran or Yukti, you might want to answer, one of you, we'll be hearing a lot about is privacy data policy, the PDP, right? So for the software people who are trying to build it, to what level do they need to exercise on all these privacy part over there? And because there is always this thing about, hey, I'm giving my data, right? There's a fear around how it could be used, misused, whatever things happen. Once it's out, right? So we are seeing a lot of breaches also, right? So what are the things they need to keep in mind to make sure that they don't overdo it, but also to ensure their stakeholders, who are the patients or the hospitals, kind of align to this and strike the right balance?
Yukti, I'll take this and then maybe you can add in a couple of things. Yeah. So firstly, let's understand what is, so PDP is not yet out, guys. So, but it will, I'm hoping, we're all hoping that, it should be taken up shortly by the parliament and approved, but it's a great thing for India. India badly needs a good privacy protection bill. But what it also means is that it's going to put quite a bit of responsibilities. So I want to just share an interesting thing, right? So if you read the PDP bill, you will find that the word ownership is usually not there. What it instead talks about is if your information is with somebody. So for example, let's say Janitri has some patient data for some mother. It talks about what rights does that patient have and what safeguards must Janitri kind of make sure because they're holding somebody else's data. So, so there is the construct that we call as a data principal. There's a construct that we call as a data fiduciary and so on. So you only have rights. Now, what you need to know is that NDHM was designed to completely align with PDP. So if you do what NDHM is asking, so if you take your software, which already has, like Janitri has software, which has patient health data, and you go integrate with NDHM and get NDHM certified. So, how do we say that we can allow this software to participate in the NDHM ecosystem? So we have a process that you'll see on the sandbox, which we call as the NDHM certification process. So fundamentally it says, okay, you need to integrate all these APIs, but it doesn't stop there. It actually says, looks at how is your data protection and how is your data privacy? Are you keeping that thing encrypted? Is this secure? And so on. So that when you come in and bring this data to participate in the ecosystem, there are safeguards in place in terms of how this is going to happen. So one of the best ways in which a hospital can actually be compliant to PDP is being compliant to NDHM. So that's one of the things that we are hoping will also drive, adoption cycles quite soon.
Yeah.
Sure.
And also
some kind of a checklist. Please go ahead, Yukti.
No, just to add to this, right, that the perhaps most significantly NDHM as an ecosystem and Health ID and it's the entire supporting ecosystem is trying to return the control of the personal health journey to the key actor in this entire ecosystem, which is the patient, right? So while the architecture is federated, you cannot actually share data without the user's consent, and the user has the right to share or revoke consent, like grant and revoke consent. So like Kiran just said, comply with PDP is essentially complying with NDHM, like working within this ecosystem. Yeah.
Sure then. So what I'll do is, let me just summarize the top 3-4 points that came out of this discussion, and we'll look for if there are any questions. Otherwise, we'll kind of summarize this panel. So NDHM, Kiran, we are going great speed. We are kind of seeing more adoption, though there are disparate hospitals. There are things in place already happening for us to move forward. Very good. And unique ID, I think Yuktish, you spoke about, easy to do. Either you do it or there are assisted kiosks also in hospitals that will assist people to do it, right? Then we move to Genitri, understanding what they do, etc. And right now, Arun, if I'm able to convince you in this panel that you should move towards NDHM APIs, I might have accomplished my goal. What do you think around this whole thing?
No,
Are you inspired that you should do this part of this?
No, definitely. I think this is one of the challenge, when we are talking to the different state health department. So this is one of the thing, like I think every state health department is also looking for this end-to-end integration. And we also want to do that. And so I think this becomes a very good platform for us to do that. So we are happy to share the intrapartum data. If we can actually get the antepartum data, make sure we give the good alerts. And so the same data can be utilized for the postpartum as well. And it becomes the whole end-to-end integration. It will be really fantastic. So we are on it.
Sure then. Good that I was able to convince one startup to get onto this. So coming back to this, I think Kiran also shared how easy it is to integrate the APIs, log onto the sandbox, and you've got the things. And when something comes out of the sandbox, you've got a complete, what we call a checklist kind of thing done.
Yeah.
So it is certified in all aspects on basic APIs, as well as certain things on the PDP, ownership rights and safeguards over there. That's what we kind of discussed. So it's been exciting. I think if anyone of you have questions for each other, I would like it to be open. I think Kiran, you two can look at, or if they can talk to Genitri, asking any questions over there. Otherwise, we'll draw this panel discussion to a close. There is a question here.
Yes, there is one question that's just come in. It's more to understand how NDHM will make sure that different data systems, different data stacks can talk to each other seamlessly between private, public hospitals and all of that.
I think we kind of covered a bit of that in terms of the thought structure, but fundamentally think of it like this, right? So you have a health ID, and then let's assume that most hospitals, whether it's public or private, whatever software they have is integrated with NDHM. So imagine a world where, anybody who's supplying a software to a hospital or a lab because they are working in India is made their software NDHM compliant. So you walk to that hospital, you provide your health ID. Essentially, health ID is going to make it very fast for you to register. So it's going to be like, the experience we have seen on the pilots on the ground is like how you pay for your Pani Puri wala. So you have a mobile phone and you will have a choice of NDHM mobile apps. So on that phone, like you have Paytm and you have with Google Pay and so on. So you walk into the hospital, you'll see a little QR code stuck there. Pull out your phone, scan it, and you get registered in the sense that you shared your health ID as well as all the information they required for registration in seconds. So that's the experience that's going to happen. And when you want to see the data or anybody else wants to share the data, imagine that against your health ID, you have a bunch of links. So think of it like URLs to some bunch of web pages, right? So when you provide the consent, so you say, okay, these are my list of records, and here is Dr. X or Hospital Y, which can access my record. So what you're giving is you're giving a right. So we have under the hood something that we call as a consent artifact, a digitally signed consent from you. Think of it like on a piece of paper you signed, but it's a digital thing. You're saying, okay, you can have Mr. Hospital, you can access all the content of those links. So the new hospital is taking that digital consent and then sending it to all the links along with that says, okay, sends it to the link and says, look, I've got the consent of this user, give it to me. So the hospital, like Genitri is the software. So Genitri is holding one portion of that record. It is going to get that consent object. It's going to look at it and say, okay, this is a valid consent. So there are ways to digitally verify that it was indeed coming from the same person. And then it says, okay, here you can have the piece of information that I have, but it doesn't just give the piece of information. It gives it in a slightly structured way so that when at hospital X, this whole thing is put together, you actually have a longitudinal record. So you can see how we call this a federated architecture. It's an architecture where data continues to live in the place where it was created. It is, put together and pulled together on demand. Of course, there are many challenges with this. All these systems need to stay online. There needs to be uptime. It's possible that a lab may close down. Then what happens to that little portion of my record going away? So if you're interested in the nitty-gritties and how we solve for all of this, join the sandbox, get into the discussion. We have a nice dev forum there. This is not the place to do it. But yes, any architecture has pros and cons, and so does ours. And so this is what how we actually bring together. So somebody asked a question on FHIR. So yes, when I said that the data is shared, essentially the format of these data formats is FHIR. So essentially NDHM has published something we call as the FHIR profiles for India. So there are 5 of them that are already published. So there is a format for a diagnostic report. There's a format for a discharge summary. There's a format for a prescription. There's a format for a consultation note, and there's a format for an immunization record. So all of these are out there. You can again come to our website, take a look at it. So whenever you are sharing data, you need to use one of these currently 5 formats. There are a few more coming, but there's a wellness record, for example, that's in the works. But fundamentally, as long as the data is in all of these formats, that will make sure that the other party is able to interpret it and use the data. So that's how hopefully that helps people understand a little more about the technically how things work under the hood. For those who are really the coders, there's no place better than the sandbox, and where you can actually get into the APIs and you can actually play with it and actually build solutions today.
Yeah. So great. And so what you can just not rely on it, you can also contribute to it by creating your own stuff is what Kiran is telling. That's where the whole ecosystem grows one on top of other. So it was great having you all on this panel discussion, Arun, Kiran and Yukti. So thanks once again. And with this summary, I would like to hand it back to our MC, Anusha. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Arun, Kiran, Yukti, and Shashi for this very insightful discussion. I'm sure the entrepreneurs in audience have had a great takeaway on how to build solutions specific to Bharat and keeping NDHM in mind. So up next is a session on moving the needle in agriculture, creating startup impact at scale, and catalyzing rural micro-entrepreneurship. So you can also head over to the networking lounge to meet Shashank from GEM and also the team from Invest India. So see you all there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.